I just want to introduce a good friend and colleague, Malcolm Kirby. He is a wealth of information, so I'm glad you're here. Please join me in welcoming Malcolm.
Thank you. So I'm here, I guess you guys are mostly recording Pro Tools, mixing production people, I'm assuming. That's kind of what Melanie told me. So that's, it's nice to be back in the college environment. I taught Pro Tools HD at the same college I met her as Melanie at FLCC. And since then I've been doing a lot of production work and playing a lot of bass as well. So a little background, I'm actually a jazz bass player first, and I had no intention of going into production or mixing back when I was like 18 or 19. I just wanted to play bass, and that's pretty much all I knew, and that was all I was thinking. And then when I was around 22, I started messing with Pro Tools, and started getting into the studio and got completely hooked and addicted, and sort of took over my agenda for the large part. And since then, have been trying to get a lot more involved in doing music for sync and production with artists, things like that. So I guess today what I was thinking we could talk about is the production process, and then the overall things you have to think about as you're going into freelancing, doing production. And there's a lot of different areas you kind of get into. Some are left brain, some are right brain, some are organizational, some are detailed. But I guess what I'd like to start off talking about is how I sort of think about organizing my process when I'm getting into doing production. And I was a Pro Tools person for a long time, but now it's mostly Logic, I would have to say. Once you kind of get into a flow with the scoring production vibe, I feel Logic is a lot more friendly in that sense. So I don't know if you guys have any experience using Logic, or have you tested the two? Are you guys mostly Pro Tools? Okay, so I'm coming in talking down on the Pro Tools, but no. But Pro Tools is great. You know, Pro Tools is amazing for mixing. It's amazing for tracking. But I think when you get into wanting to do things quickly and efficiently, I'm kind of oriented around Logic, but we don't have to stress that too much. We can get into some of the details of some things as far as organizational. But I think the first thing I'd like to talk about is really how you start to conceive your setup when people are calling you and they want music really fast, and you only have a day or two maybe to make the music. And this is usually what happens in a sync type situation or a commercial situation. You will get an email and they'll say, you know, we want this spot, we want a remix of the song that sounds like a Rolling Stones tune, and we want it by tomorrow at 8 a.m. And so if you had any plans for the rest of the day, you know, those are kind of shot if you want to try to get this speculative account. So you get into this thing where you start to think about, okay, how efficiently can I get from A to B with production, and then where am I taking this as far as my mix and everything. So I think a big part of this whole thing is organizing your sounds. If you have a huge sound library and you're collecting drums and you're collecting bass sounds, and you've recorded a lot of things yourself, and you're starting to organize those, how do you organize those, and how do you streamline that efficiency in a way that makes it a lot easier to get in the box and produce things? Now, it's great if you're producing and you've got a million friends who are killing musicians and you've got a space to record music and you can track almost everything live, then you're in a really good place. But sometimes that's not the most efficient or the most fast for doing accounts that need to go in quickly. So I get really obsessed with organizing all that stuff, and especially even if you're mixing and you're in Pro Tools, and that, you know, now since everyone knows that you can do everything in the box, they expect you, even if you're just mixing, to almost start doing half the production. Like, okay, you know, I want this kick sound to be deeper. That kick sound's not really that good. So what kind of kicks can we replace that with? That type of thing. So I think a big part of this is looking at how you organize your sounds and how you know how to get to your sounds really quickly. So I've got a little sheet here. This is kind of, I'll pass this around. This is kind of a way I think about, and it's a little small, but it's sort of how I organize sounds and think about where I place things and how I'm going to find them as fast as possible. So that's one side of it, and we can get more into that as you guys, I'm going to hear where you guys are at with things, but I'll start off, I'll play something here first. So this was a piece that came in the other day, and this is for a video game type thing, and so they called me up and they said, we want something with a sort of ambient Indian thing that evolves into more of like a drum and bass, dark synth type of energy, so can you give us like a 2-minute pitch on what that would sound like? And there's like a 2-day turnaround, you know, so I didn't have the luxury of having a week to sit there and premeditate over it, so that's part of what this whole sound obsession thing is about, but I'll play this real quickly. So that's one insane piece right there. But I like so much different type of music, and I tend to produce a lot of different things. I guess that's kind of a reputation I've developed with the people I've worked with. So it's sometimes it's a crunk banger hip hop thing, sometimes it's a rock thing, you know, and it's all over the place. So I think a lot of what production gets into is knowing sounds, knowing the characteristics of sounds, what sounds good for the context, and then knowing how to mix that context to sound correct. You know, you can have a certain ear depending on what you really like for mixing. You know, if you're into mixing real hardcore, you know, mathcore metal all day, you're going to hear the kick drum a certain way that you're used to mixing, and that you like to hear it like that. But if you move over into doing a folk recording and the kick needs to sound really warm, the whole process of listening to music and understanding music and knowing what certain styles of mixing sound like. So I think you guys are all doing that. You're doing Pro Tools mixes, analyzing what's coming out well, what's not working, what's transferring, which plugins sound the way they do, things like that. So with all this stuff, I think mixing and production, there's a lot of detail that goes into all of it. And I think the more, you know, you don't want to be too OCD, but there's a good obsessive compulsiveness that comes into, you know, knowing what you like about certain plugins, having your go-to things that you know are going to work for you after a while. Like for instance in Pro Tools, like the Waves plugins are great because they sound very transparent. McDSB, things like that, sound more stylized and things like that. So you get into trying to hear those things as you're mixing, and a lot of times before you even start to mixing, and visualize how you're going to treat that stuff. So I think a lot of it evolved for me from working in studios. I worked in an SSL studio up in Rochester, really fortunate to have this amazing commercial studio there that had an SSL 4000G mixing board and great rooms, and so I got to do a lot of mixing as well as production, and I feel like that mixing experience has definitely helped to deliver things in a way with my production work, even if it's in the box, even if it's in my home studio, that it sounds on a level that's acceptable to hear and listen. You know, it's tough to deliver things if your mixing skills aren't quite there. So I think it's good to focus on the mixing and A and B your mixes, and I'm sure you guys are all getting into that. But I guess this thing I passed out here, what I want to look at is kind of like the main areas that when you're dealing with freelancing in music, and this is kind of based on my approach. So there's a lot of different ways to look at doing things. You know, there's a lot of great gigs you can get working in a studio or working in an establishment. This is kind of a look at more of if you're self-promoting yourself as a production person or trying to do mixing. There's a bunch of different sides, and I think these are the main meta areas that I would break it down to. So there's the first part, which is kind of the production geekery side of it, which I've been talking about here, which we'll move away from. And that's just the kind of whole knowing your software, you know, as completely as possible. So if you're in Pro Tools, know like every shortcut in Pro Tools. Know it completely down so that it's totally second nature. So when you sit down on Pro Tools, you're flying, you know, it's like a video game to you, and you know, you can get anything done as fast as you want to get it done, because that'll ultimately save you a ton of time, and it'll make people a lot happier with the experience they have working with you. So I can't stress that enough. When I was teaching at college, I was the total shortcut maniac, you know, and all the students would get real tired of me coming around because I'd be ripping on everybody. Come on, man, you got you got to get your shortcuts happening there, man. You know, it's taking too long. But really it is. It's Pro Tools. Everything in Pro Tools is all about the shortcuts. So make sure you just totally wire the shortcuts as best you can, and that's a key. So just like getting everything as streamlined as fast as possible. So production, sounds, and Logic. All my sounds are organized in a way that I can go find them, even down to like the drum sounds: kick drum, deep kick, mid kick, high pitch kick, synthetic or acoustic kicks. Because you don't want to be sitting there if you're trying to make something. You want to be able to go from your mind to the sound as fast as possible without having to dig through, you know, terabytes of sound banks, kind of just looking for stuff. So I think it's real cool to try to get that part taken care of. And then mixing, I think, if you have a certain style of music you really know you want to mix, that's cool, and that's the way you should go with it, and put yourself in that, you know, genre, put yourself in that arena with the people you work with. But if you're interested in mixing a lot of different styles, I think it's just important to really listen to music, know how those songs were created in the studio, know what gear they were using, know how they were, you know, imagining the process from A to B, and learn as much as you can about the history of all that stuff, you know, like even back to the Beatles, Abbey Road's gear, and now to the new, you know, everything in the box, Ocean Way Studios, because everything is kind of moving in the box, and I think we all know that. It's a lot of the studios here in the city have definitely disappeared over the past couple of years. I used to master everything at the Hit Factory, and then now that's not here anymore. So it's a new reality for sure, and I think the more you can control your setup with what you have in the box is going to be give you a lot more power.
Hello,
Yes.
may I ask a question?
Sure.
A very naive question.
Okay.
As you can tell, I'm a contemporary.
Okay.
I'm accustomed to hearing somebody play the piano or somebody
Sure.
play the violin.
Yes.
What instruments are you playing there?
That's a very good question. The instruments I'm playing here is a kind of a combination of things, but for this piece here that I played, those were mostly instruments that were pre-recorded and were accessible within a software program. So some of them were sampled at one time. So the drums on that you heard, that was recorded in the studio. But then I had the recording of those drums. And so I took those drums and I manipulated them to fit into the piece that was already.
In other words, it's synthetic.
It's synthetic. The whole thing, it was acoustic at one time, you know, but everything's turning synthetic now. That's the thing with the digital thing. You know, it's a transfer from, you know, like I had a snare in there that I had recorded in the studio, but now it's part of the data collection that I have from that snapshot I took of that snare, and then I manipulate it with the mixing process.
So we don't need live performers anymore.
Well, I would argue.
Very rarely.
Rarely. Well, I think there's the difference between live entertainment, and studio music, radio music that you hear. Some music sounds a lot better on the radio, and then you go see it live, and it's terrible because it's the studio production of it was great when they had the control, and then live, maybe the bass player's not that good, or the drummer's not so great. So there's a difference, but I think you do need live. I think, especially with the record industry the way it is now, I think live music is more important than ever, and I think people are gravitating to it because of its human connection. I think live music will never go away. I think it will always be valuable. So, but there's a trend where people do want to hear things that are modern production based. And so a lot of the music that's on the radio now is very computer produced for sure. But I think it's a movement both ways. There's a lot of indie bands that are getting really huge that record all their stuff live, and it kind of goes both ways. I think right now it's a very, it's in limbo right now where everything is. People don't know the record industry doesn't know how to grasp this whole digital thing, and it's an interesting time for sure. But so that also brings me to why I started looking for doing more music for TV and sync. There's a lot of those reasons too. Because I have produced some acts and some artists that have had label deals. I produced a hip hop group a couple years ago that went on to Jay, but then they got shelved, and I started seeing a lot of people that had a lot of, they had the image of success, they got to the right places, and then things started going south in a lot of ways, and so some people slip through and find some success with it, but the whole indie model now is really taking over, and things like TuneCore, things like that, it's a lot of self-promotion is starting to move into this whole picture. So that's a whole other side of doing this thing, is kind of keeping your mind wrapped around what's happening with the social networking thing, whether some of that's working, whether some of it's totally overly indulgent, and narcissistic on some levels. It's like I certainly feel that way. A lot of times I go onto Facebook and things like that. I see people self-promoting all day and stuff, and I'm like, that's cool, man, but I'm kind of getting tired of seeing those billboards about what's going on over there. So if it's interesting, I want to check it out. That's cool, but it's right now it's a real toss-up as far as what's effective and what's going to move the industry forward and what's going to make money.
Can that technique be used successfully with vocals?
There's a lot of there's a lot of things that can be done with the vocals. Yes, that's for sure. Too many things these days. I think it takes 3 days to auto-tune a J-Lo track or something in the studio like that, But so it's there's too many things you can do to make people sound good that don't sound good, if that's what you're asking. But
they have something on there with Susan Boyle. They clarify her sound or whatever.
Sure. Oh yeah, everything's getting.
How often is that done with the classical performances?
Classical performances, I would hope not too much. Usually classical performances are some of the most
But you really don't know.
You don't know, but I would say with classical music, it's some of the most untampered music as far as the mixing. Like with these types of mixes, you're looking to get a lot of these things as loud as possible, with as much clarity as possible. Classical music, a lot of it's not touched at all in terms of making it louder. It's just a pure recording of it. So in that sense, I wouldn't think so. But another side of this, so the organization thing, and then there's the whole music side of being a mixer and being a producer, is how well do you know music itself as far as the language of music? Can you read some music? Can you talk about musical terms? Do you know, like even if you're using Logic or something and you want to transpose something up and down a half step, the only way to do it is to know that 100 cents is a half of a step. So if you want to tune it down a half step, you got to go negative 100 on the transposition. So there's a lot of things you need to know about music just to even work your software. That's key, So there's some things that are easy. Some plugins make it really easy to tune things. You got auto tune. You can just throw it on the vocal and it'll do its thing, and you can just watch it go and watch the lights light up and stuff, and that's cool. But I think a big part of this, if you want to mix, you want to deal with people in the studio. Like in Japan, I did a session last year, and all the engineers in there, it was pretty hard music too, and they could all read the thing perfectly, and they would punch in like right on the bar, and I was blown away. I was like, wow, I haven't met too many engineers that could really like read music on like a virtuosic level. So they're like, over there, they're insane with it. But I think if you can just understand, you need to understand basic rhythms to quantize things. You got to know your 8/16, 16ths, triplets, all that very basic stuff. You got to have that out of the way for sure if you want to do mixing and production. And then as well as just, having recorded some and listened to records, knowing what you think sounds good. Like does this acoustic bass sound good, or does that sound like it doesn't have enough? Is the mic in the right spot? Is that picking up the right sound? Is fundamental there? Is there enough tack? Starting to get real critical about those types of things, I think, is a real key to this whole thing. But as far as the business side, how many of you guys are looking to go into production or writing or? Cool, so a bunch of people here. And you guys, everyone else is into mixing? Doing Pro Tools sessions? More or less both? Yeah, kind of goes, they both kind of run into each other these days, because if you are a mixer, you got to know about production. You got to have sounds available. Someone wants to change the kick drum sound. You got to have a bunch of kicks available and say, oh, we could fix that. You can be stingy and not want to do it, but then you probably won't get called back. So it's good to have that stuff available and it's good to be organized. But as far as production, it depends on which area you want to go into or how you want to market yourself. As far as if you're trying to look to do jingle work, doing commercials, or if you're looking to write tracks for people, an artist, you want to pitch yourself as a songwriter, or if you're looking to get into film scoring. There's a lot of different ways to go with it, and I think that the key to getting that process moving is, first you got to build up some kind of portfolio of what you've done and what you can do, and get that sounding as good as possible as far as your mix and where all the elements are. And then I would say, if you're really hungry and you're really aggressive to get into it, the good place to start is by going and grabbing the Music Atlas. I'm sure some of you guys may have seen that, like Barnes & Noble. That's got every number of all the major library houses, of all the major contacts. It's pretty thick, right? So there's no mystery to it. That's honestly how I got started, sort of half of how I got started. I was originally like a skateboarder, snowboarder punk when I was in high school, and me and my best buddy used to be sponsored. We used to go snowboarding and skateboarding and get into trouble and stuff. But then he ended up jumping off a cliff and getting spinal nerve damage, and so he started getting really into the management thing because he couldn't snowboard anymore. I was getting really into the music thing, and we started making a lot of tracks for snowboarding, skateboarding videos. I started scoring those, and that was kind of how I started doing beats and music for scoring back when I was like 21, when I was finishing up my time at Eastman. So because I was just thinking about playing bass, I wasn't thinking anything about doing production or anything like that. But so from there, we got the Music Atlas, we got a couple other sources, and we started looking around and saying, where else could we try to shop this music? I was writing a lot of jazz and live stuff at that point. I was only writing for musicians, so I hadn't really conceived of the whole process of shopping beats or doing production for film. But then we started looking, and you start to find there's numbers in there, and there's production houses, there's libraries, and you can call those people and try to get in touch with them.
The Music Atlas is kind of like a yellow book?
It's kind of like a yellow book for the music industry. You can go to Barnes & Noble, print one every year. You can just buy right off the shelf and look, and you'll see a lot of real valid information. Yeah, that's completely how I got started, with finding out who was who. And then it just turned into like a romantic cold calling thing, so it's a lot of it comes down to that as far as pitching music is how much do you want to get on the phone and call people, or if you're more of a person that would like to just have someone else do that and then pay them, find someone who could effectively do that as well. But I think it's a process of, there's a lot of ways to go about it. If you were going to pitch an artist, you could develop the artist and then take the final completed product and try to market that on itself. So that's why I'm saying you kind of have to look at your niche and what you're into doing. If you want to do Huggies, jingles and stuff like that, that's a whole different side, and I know a lot of guys that do, and then those guys probably make the most money, but I don't always have the stomach to do the 30-second jingle thing. I've done a bunch of them, but that's that can be a real feverish hustle where it's like you get it the day before, like I was saying, and they want it the next day. So if you had plans that night and you wanted to go out and have fun, you're looking at, that's going to be your night right there, and then you might not get the account either. There might be 25 other guys working on it, but that's just the reality of it. So I guess I've been lucky with some of the supervisors I've met and everything that they've liked what I've done enough to keep calling me back personally just to do what I do on it, but it's always changing. There's always speculative, accounts working. So to get in the door, one of the things I wrote on here was, if you get a contact with somebody and you want to make an influence on them, you should offer to do some things on speculation just to show them kind of what you can do. and just say, yeah, I'll take a stab at this. You know, you want this remix or you want this thing? I'll do it for free, just to show you, you know, I'm interested in working with you, and this is the quality of work I can deliver. So I had, yeah.
So, as an engineer, do you think it's like important to know all like programs, or is it just necessary to learn at least just one program fully?
I would say learn one program completely and learn it and master that. You know, I geek out on all this stuff. I grew up on Macs. My mom was a computer graphic designer, so I kind of just like gravitate towards computers in general. But Logic is definitely where I put my energy for the past couple of years, just because it served me the best. As far as writing music, you know, you've got everything you need there. And so Pro Tools is great, but I always found Pro Tools was a little slow when you get, especially when you got into MIDI production, things like that. It's great for tracking a band, it's great for mixing, and that's what it's great for. But I think my personal thing is, if you want to do writing and you're getting the more MIDI side of things, Logic is definitely the way to go. Yes?
Me again.
Okay.
I heard you say writing music.
Writing.
Are you actually writing music, or are you just playing with a computer?
You're ball-busted here. I can't take it. No.
Will this ever create a Brahms or a Beethoven?
Well, I think that you're opening, that's a Pandora's box. I don't even know if I want to get, I don't know if I want to go there, but that I feel like, that a real simple answer to that question is, I feel like a lot of people were the product of their era. So a Brahms or a Beethoven, they were the product of their time period. I think there's a lot of amazing classical composers now that are probably not really as well known in the public. Saying, well,
the background of my question is, how much musical creativity is involved in this?
It can be a lot, you know. This can be.
Really?
So, well, in that case, you know, if you go see a major motion picture now and you hear the score, and it's an orchestral score. Let's say you see Lord of the Rings or something, and it's got this beautiful, lush orchestral score going on. A lot of that was conceived in the computer first by the composer, and he has a huge library of these sounds that are recorded from an orchestra. So when he's scoring there, maybe on his keyboard, he's hearing it play back to him as it would sound almost.
Is that an original composition?
Oh yeah, for sure, with the notes and everything. The sheet music, yeah. That's how most of it's being done now.
It's so difficult for me to conceive of that.
Yeah, really. Yeah, no, that's what's happening now. Is it's these programs have taken over where they're, you know, and it's scary how much they can imitate those things sometimes. You know, it's especially with strings, it's getting real good, and a lot of composers are going out to, you know, European countries and recording these orchestras, and they're recording every detail of what the instrument is doing, from the down bow to the up bow. And they're recording that whole sound, and they're trying to make it so that it can sound as realistic as possible coming from here. And then they're scoring it with sheet music, so that's what's happening. But so where were we before that? Let me see. No, but it is an interesting thing to think about. You know, a lot of it. You know, you watch like RoboCop, or you watch these '80s movies, and it's clearly a lot of MIDI scoring going on, and that's the style. You know, I watched RoboCop 2 the other night or something, and then. So there's some Hans Zimmer score, and it's like, you know, it's totally the cheesiest, greatest thing that's going on. And Hans Zimmer now is like one of the biggest guys doing scoring, but he's really good at scoring now, I think, not because he was a great orchestral composer or anything like that, but it was because he was so good with MIDI, and he was so good with synths that he can score, you know, Batman, and just scored Inception or whatever, you know. And I don't know if you guys saw Inception, but that had one of the craziest scores ever. I mean, that's not my forte. That's amazing, I think, you know. But that's just, you know, those two guys, and both of those guys, James Newton Howard or whatever, they were both '80s synth guys. Like James Newton Howard played in Toto, and you know, they're totally not orchestral guys. So I think that the thing there is that, you know, your ability to master the computer and to master the software is kind of what's important now if you want to get into scoring and things like that. Unless you have a real niche where you've established yourself as a classical composer and you can hire musicians all the time, and you've got a lot of money coming in somehow to pay all those musicians. But it's, yeah.
Well, when someone asks you to do a genre you don't normally do, like, how do you go around composing for that?
Like a classical score or something like that?
Like, or like what you just did from that to something totally different?
There's a lot of things I can handle where I do have friends who are great musicians. I'm fortunate that I can call if it's like a jazz thing, or if it's a rock thing, or if it's something that requires live players, that's usually not a problem. But yeah, I don't usually dive too deeply. I've done some string scores, but I wouldn't stretch into trying to take on Lord of the Rings or something like that. I know my limitations. I'm not the guy to do that. They should definitely let the Howard Shores and the guys who are killing at doing string, orchestral arrangements handle that stuff. I'm definitely more production based, and live instrument based if it's rock or jazz.
You kind of just stick to one where you know you can just reach your hands into, rather than trying to do something you don't think that you can pull off.
Right. I think exactly. I think you know your fortes, and I feel like I'm diverse enough, but I feel like I usually steer clear of orchestral stuff pretty much. I think I do mostly everything else but orchestral stuff. I'd say. Heavy metal stuff? I've mixed a bunch of stuff. I've especially when I was upstate at FLCC, most of the guys there were all heavy metal. In this town outside of Rochester, New York. It was like the kids there when I was teaching. It was like hip hop, or it was mathcore, deathcore. So half the projects coming in. How my vocals sound, man? I'm like, yeah, they sound good. I'm gonna shelve off some of that low ender, I don't know what to get. But no, I mean I love, the mixing on some of that stuff's amazing. Like I love Meshuggah and some of the groups who just have incredible, it's unbelievable musicianship. It's like bionic arms and feet and incredible stuff. So I do love a lot of it. But as far as what I've done, my stuff's more been like hip hop, jazz, drum and bass, more in that arena, I suppose. Kind of breakbeat things. It's been all over the place, but so I'll play another example here. What's that? Oh, that's another good question. I used to have a really amazing home studio, and I used to work out of this SSL studio, so I was real fortunate for a couple years to have just a lot of access without having to shell out too much of my own money after I had a setup. I had a Pro Tools HD setup in a cobblestone house upstate with a business partner who had a lot of analog rack gear, Neve, and all that stuff. So I was fortunate to have that. But now here in Brooklyn, I have my home apartment set up, just my writing setup. My room's pretty sound isolated, and then I've just got a computer, I've got a Neve pre, and I've got all my instruments, I've got a Rhodes, got a bunch of synths. And
companies that you particularly like for different things?
As far as brands?
Shure microphones.
Yeah, there's definitely Shure microphones, and Blue mics are great. I think Blue mics are a great value for the money, especially. Those are amazing. There's a lot of stuff that can go in that direction. But yeah, like Novation, I like a lot of that. Real Ableton. I love Ableton Live. I don't know if you guys have messed with Ableton at all, or what Ableton can do. Ableton Live is kind of it's kind of changing the way a lot of the production is happening, because it's loop based, but it's very interactive, live performance-based software where you can arrange things and move things around on the fly. So I've been doing a lot of scoring and composition in that, as well as Logic. I did some music for The Love Guru, which was that amazing movie that came out a while ago. Mike Myers, it's joking, it was a terrible movie. No, shouldn't say that. But it wasn't my favorite Mike Myers movie. But I used Ableton Live to score that, because I had a lot of sounds coming in, a lot of percussion things, and I wanted to move them around in different places. Yeah.
In order to score the movie, were you able to watch the movie first? Did you watch the whole movie first, or did they just give you the scenes?
In that case, they gave me just a bunch of reference ideas, and they didn't do it to picture on that one. Sometimes it's to picture, sometimes they just want something, like a certain flavor. And,
like, I need this love scene.
And it sounds like these 4 tracks, it's like this Harry Connick track meets this Brian McKnight track, or it's like they'll give you a bunch of references, and then they'll say, work off this and try to make something that happens kind of in this vein. So it can get very abstract and frustrating sometimes. Especially, I think the commercial world is the worst with that. Yeah.
Did you have to come up with like your own tempo based when it came up to those type of situations?
Like on tempo? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Like, did you have to
like the feel of it and everything and the movement. Yeah. There's some interaction with the supervisor, you know, as far as if this direction's working or this direction. But, you know, sometimes you go off the reference track, but you don't want to totally remake the reference track. So if they give you like, you know, you gotta have it sound like your own, and you have to be convincing with your own energy. But sometimes what I would do is I would make a couple variations. You know, if I felt strong, I'd be like, here's 2 or 3 different ideas. You let me know what's working the best for you. And I think that's a big part of all this too, is kind of like, sometimes you got to overextend a little bit, because sometimes that one shot in the dark, they'll hear it and they'll be like, oh, no, I don't know about that. But if you give them a couple things, and they'll say, oh, maybe he can actually work with it. You know, he turned it around this quickly or whatever. So yeah, sometimes you got to just, you know, take what you can get from those references and then make your own thing happen. So yeah, it's all different depending on what the account is. But let me see if I can pull this up here. So I'll just kind of, so with this Love Guru one, I just had a bunch of samples coming in and out, and I'll kind of solo some of those real quick just to show what happened here. So this was in Ableton. This is right in Ableton right here. Whoa! Is that just coming out the right? Is that coming out the left though? So there's a couple different evolutions. So did you notice in the beginning there how the tempo changed up? It started off at one tempo, and then I automated the tempo to go up from 110 up to like 135 for the different sections. So he had a bunch of things that he wanted me to work with like that. He's like, have it start off and have it sound really like some organic stuff going on, like a field sample of people going crazy, and then turn it into this kind of rock, you know, happy, sort of hippied out thing that's real moving, and then have it go into a real modern club thing. So there's a bunch of different, in this session I mixed everything. There's a lot of tracks going on, so it's almost like there's different mixes happening on those different tracks. So in this case, I'm not a huge fan of using like a million tracks. Like some people love to, you know, stack the vocals 25 times and, you know, max the system out. But a lot of times that's not necessary, and that can start to be, inefficient after a while if you want to keep opening the thing up and having it work on the computer well. So in this case, I just had a bunch of different mixes going, and then the whole session kind of worked in that way. But yeah, it's really just. So it's a bunch of different layers going on, and let's see if I can get here to this. I'll loop this for a second. Oh, whoops, excuse me, this thing's all over the place. Okay, I'll loop that. It's like old, like Mellotron vintage sampler thing. So I said a bunch of different layers going, so those were all just played sampler instrument style. So I had the Santor instrument, the flute instrument. So that stuff was all just in like an area in my EXS Logic folder that said like World Melodic Indian. I just go in there and I find all the stuff that I've labeled that fits inside that category. And that makes it 10 times easier for me to find than, like I remember going back in the day when I got in like Reason and stuff, and it'd just be like a big sample, be like a lot of stuff there, but it's kind of like you get lucky when you find the right thing or something, It's almost like you want to have it so that you have control over kind of knowing where those things are. So it's a lot of time spent, going a little OCD and listening to your sounds and knowing where things are, and maybe not hanging out all day or something, It's a little bit of time in the bat cave, but but that's just that example. So that was kind of a crazy, silly remix kind of thing that he asked me to do based on a bunch of different ideas. So one was kind of like, at the time, I think like Naughty Girl was a big track, and he's like, do some like Beyonce Naughty Girl type thing in the middle of it, and then have the beginning be like some authentic Indian like thing where they're dancing and like, so it's a lot, I was trying to like work around all these different, I'm like, okay, that sounds crazy, but we'll try to make it happen, man. And so I think I worked on that one for probably like almost a year, going back and forth with the guy until that got approved. So sometimes it's a real long process of him saying, what he likes or doesn't like, or her. But so that's one thing. So there's a lot of different styles, but that one was just that kind of how I pieced those things together. So like mixing different elements, 808 kick, some Indian things on top, with some organic claps. So that was just the sound I was hearing on that one. But I also brought here, so maybe to switch over to the business side a little bit, because I felt like this was one of the things that maybe is really unclear and abstract with the whole music business. So this one right here, I'll pass around. This is a legit contract for a sync agreement. And do you guys know the difference between like publishing and the writing side? Like, how you know what it is?
Like, one of my teachers would tell me like publishing the people who are actually going out and distributing like your records and the albums and songs.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of work with the labels to like for like new releases and some albums and stuff.
Right, exactly. Yeah, a publisher itself is usually someone who's shopping your tracks and splitting the money with you, and you guys are both eating because they like your music and they think they can place it. So that's a publisher. So that's the gig of a publisher. But when you deal with the actual tune, like if you join ASCAP or BMI and you have to register your song, you have to register two sides of the song, the writing side and the publishing side, and those are both 50% of 100%. So it's really confusing at first. When I got into it, it took me a long time to grasp how it was all working. But that's what happens. So in this contract here, you can see there's a synchronization side which deals with the composition, and that's kind of the publishing. So back in the day, that'd be like the sheet music. That'd be the actual writing of the song, like the actual notation of it. So like if someone wanted to license one of Paul McCartney's tunes, but they didn't want to actually use his recording of it, they wanted to just license the actual song itself and then do their own version of it, you're dealing with the writing side, the publishing. But if it's the actual master use of a tune, then you're dealing with the recording itself. So there's a lot of times there's two sides if they want to use the song. So in this one, I'm just going to pass this around a little bit. You can see the master use here says recording, and the sync says composition. So I'm going to look that over. And there's a lot of things in there. So a lot of this, and what this gets to is when something actually bites and something comes in, then you get into dealing with the contract and the whole legal side of this whole thing. And then that's a whole other side of the whole thing, which can be daunting. And it can be, if you get good at reading contracts, it can get easier, but there's a lot of tricky things that can get thrown into contracts. So I brought this, probably one of the funniest ones I was ever given, which was, I used to shop a lot of beats. This is back in like 2005, back when Little John was big. And this is actually Little John's company right here, Trilltown. And so the contract looks pretty legit. You can tell it's like wordage that they pieced together from a bunch of different contracts, I think. But on the back, right before the end of it, there's a little thing that's written in there that says, you agree to pay $2,500 as soon as you sign this, and you could really easily look over it if you weren't into looking at contracts. So this is another one right here, just a peep. You agree, yeah, like you, they're gonna shop your music, but they wouldn't mention anything about it. But as soon as you got excited, it's like, oh man, this is great, man. Yeah, you know, let's get that label deal, and then you sign it, and then immediately you're legally bound to pay them $2,500, and they can collect it from you. So that's when we were looking at that. You know, we got real excited because the contract came. We're like, oh, this is cool. This is real good. You know, just getting started, getting into it, and then it's like, oh man, $2,500. That's a little steep there. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious, like in regards to like let's say you're working on like I guess like for like better someone doing the jingles for like TV shows and everything.
Right.
Like if you have a portfolio of things that you can like shop to them, things they might want to put on a show.
Sure.
Like how do you go? What are the proper channels in which to send that? Or do you like need to hire an agent to be like find those channels for you?
Right. There's a lot of channels, especially now. There's a lot of music houses that, you know, it can work on a lot of different levels. Some people might want to buy your tracks out completely. So I was mentioning earlier, I don't know if you heard, but I mentioned the Music Atlas. There's a whole section there called Music Library, and then publishing houses, and those are the people, a lot of people that are doing it, and those are the companies. So hitting those people up is kind of the way to get your foot in the door, starting to try to get, you know, if you have a portfolio, if you have stuff you've done, you want to show them. Sometimes they might want to buy your tracks from you. Sometimes they might want to split that half and half and say, okay, we like what you did, we'll give you $500, and then we'll take it from there, and we'll give you the back end. But they're gonna keep all the upfront licensing fees in a lot of cases. So there's a lot of different arrangements, and so a lot of those houses work like that. There's like Killer Tracks, which is one of the biggest ones that like almost everybody I know, like in doing film and producing stuff, goes to Killer Tracks because they have a huge library. And so what they'll do with composers is they'll be like, yeah, we'll pay you $1,000, you write this, and then, but you know, you're just going to get the back end money on if it plays with something. You're not going to get the upfront licensing fee. So if it goes into a movie and they get $10,000 or something for the licensing, you're not going to get any of that. You're just going to get that upfront $1,000. But you will if it gets TV play or if it gets movie play. Movies don't generate royalties here. They do generate royalties overseas, but TV, definitely network TV, generates really good royalties here. But that's how a lot of those companies work. You know, they want to beef up their catalog by buying stuff and then let you just share the taste on the back end. Yeah.
On the business part,
yeah.
What's like the general income range that you get like per
license?
Per score?
That is such a relative. It's a great question. That's a very relative number, and it depends on so many things. You know, it can depend on, if you want to look at it, like if you're someone like without a big reputation, you're not a big rock star, you know, a guy like me or something. It's like it'll depend on where that track is placed within that context, and then how it's going to be used. You know, so if it's in a movie and it's a feature track. Yeah. That's going to earn a lot more than a background track, and then it depends on the duration of the usage too. It depends where it is in the movie, and then it depends on how much they think they can, how much they want it, how much they can talk you down, or how much they want to give you. You know, there's so many factors involved with that. But you know, you can get, you know, if you get a feature spot in a movie, you know, with like I did a hip hop track with this guy, and you know, that was 15 for one side, so it was like a $30,000 license for both sides, you know, the music side and then the publishing. That was one case. You know, some trailers for big bands are worth $500,000, and then you can get in the movie for $1,000 if they have like no budget left and they're like, you know, but we really want your track, we'll put it in the movie. It's so relative, you know. It depends if you want to play ball with what they're doing. And
yeah, then all right. So if you do like that process that you just said right now, like if you play along with them,
yes.
Does it give you like more possibilities of working with them in the future?
For sure. Yeah, it definitely does. And a lot of that depends on how active you stay on top of them and how interested you keep them. But it's yeah, definitely. If something works out, they're definitely more inclined to call you again. Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, man.
I don't know if you know more like on an artist scale, if an artist has to deal with a production company or a label.
Right.
Do you know anything about 360 deals? What exactly that is?
Like an all-encompassing.
I just found out about this. Yeah, put it on the table, and I couldn't really get a chance to do any research. It's something that
You know something? Yeah, what one?
360 deal is when the actual company wants a part of your merchandise. They want more, like sell at the shows, like clothes, CDs. They want a piece of that also on top of the records that you sell through them. It's more.
It's everything.
They want a piece of everything.
Right.
Because great all the time. We make money more from the shows, it's more, that's how we really make money from the shows and selling merchandise. But they want a part of that. They say, like, when you sign that clause,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's definitely true these days. It's like, if you can become a good live act and get that working, I would say that there, in a lot of cases, there's definitely a lot more money and a lot more like, today money that's going to come in off of doing shows than there is off of the record sales these days, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's like, because a lot of that, but today money, I mean, just like, you're going to do the show and you're going to get paid that night or the next day after the gig. Whereas like doing sync, a lot of the stuff, that's another thing with doing the sync thing, TV thing, is you might get a great account and you're like, oh man, that's great, that's going to be a great check. I just got to wait 6 months to 8 months for it to come in, so.
Well, they were saying that they would take a much smaller percentage of that stuff, the merchandising and touring and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But then they would take, that makes sense. Thank you.
But yeah, you assume you guys doing that? You guys have some bands going?
no,
Touring?
not that class.
Okay, nice. Sure. So you doing the artist thing?
It's my sister.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to work it now, and you see a lot of people making a lot of success for themselves doing the indie thing, and owning all of their own rights. It depends on the marketing, really. So there's a lot of publishing companies that are offering basically just marketing services. Yeah.
Some of it I know enough I'm just like
Mm-hmm.
so basically I should just get the music outlets and just start from there.
For the writing, for the
Yeah.
producing thing? Oh, so you have music that you've been producing and stuff?
I mean, no, I haven't done really anything. Like, I'm just getting into it.
It's just fresh. Yeah, totally.
So, we're trying, just, I just decided to come to school and get started.
Yeah.
But I need information, where should I start,
How to get it going?
Yeah.
So you're doing the Pro Tools classes right now and stuff?
Yeah.
So you want to do more writing, you want to make tracks
Yeah.
for artists and for stuff.
Yeah.
I would say the first thing you got to do is you got to spend some period of time in the woodshed getting really good at Pro Tools. Get good at, and of course you're going to have a forte depending on what you like to do, what styles you're into. But I would say that'd be the main thing, is to get your ears wrapped around mixing and get cozy so that you're feeling real comfortable second nature in Pro Tools. Because none of the stuff's going to work out that well if you're kind of slow with the computer, because it's going to take you a long time to do the accounts if they come in and that kind of thing. So I'd say just get your mind wrapped around that first, just hit that real hard. And yeah.
I was doing some reading online the other day, and they were talking about how a lot of mainstream artists, before they even have an opportunity to blow up, they have to pay their dues, they songwriting.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, if you wanted to break in the industry, but specifically because you feel like songwriting, because the lyricism behind it, is it's your strong suit. How do you go about giving your songwriting portfolio to a label? Because do you need to give them a demo CD of you singing the songs, telling them I'm willing to sell these to other artists, or you just show them the lyrics?
The best thing is, the closest you can get to having it completely done and finished is the best. If it's just a scratch demo even, and you're just this is my writing with this artist, the more of that you can bring to the table is the more they're going to listen to you and the more they're going to be interested. Because it's hard to have meetings and be I have all this great stuff, but these are my lyrics on paper or whatnot. It's you want to go in there and have it definitely recorded and have the performance how you would have had the artist deliver it, how you shape that song. So that's what they want to hear, whether or not they like that artist or whether no, this is killing, but we want to use it for this artist. And that's what happens a lot of times is you make tracks and kind of scratch demos. Maybe the beat will get used, but they'll just take that singer off if they want to put it with an artist or something like that. But that's as close as you can get to done when you're trying to pitch it is definitely the best way to go.
And also, like, in regards to like when you're making like the jingle beats, it's like you said that money was like you might make your money from it on the back end. But like for example, that song "Miserable," you know, it's used in a lot of surfer movies.
Right.
But it's like attained like an iconic status for that specific movie genre. Do they make them to recoup money on the back end for like that song attaining an iconic status? Let's say you make a song for them, it starts off small, but as a result of like playing in that certain movie, the song almost becomes as large and as iconic as the movie itself. Will they like renegotiate your contract because of the power that song generated?
It's a good question. I mean, that's getting pretty deep on it. I mean, in that case, like Dick Dale, Miserlou, you know, I'm sure he got a great licensing fee from like, you know, Quentin Tarantino and stuff for Pulp Fiction, and that really brought it back to the limelight in that case. But I think it was probably a negotiation one-time thing. You know, we're going to pay you this licensing fee to use it. And like I said, there's no theatrical royalties in the States. They just don't do that here, but there is for cable, and once it goes to cable and once it goes on those services. In Europe and a lot of other countries, they do have royalties for theatrical performances, but they don't do that in the States. So in that case, it was probably just they paid him a one-time fee, but I'm sure it was a handsome fee, and I think he got paid every time that album sold, and it was on the soundtrack. So there was a lot of things that made that a perk, but I'm not sure as far as the iconicness of the track moving back into the limelight. You know, I think that probably just worked in his favor off of exposure. And probably, you know, so I'd say, yeah.
I actually have a general question. How do you keep your network chain flowing? Like,
That's a really good question. That's a great question, and that's probably the hardest thing about that's the hardest aspect of the whole thing, I would say, right there. Because there's two things that happen. It's like people either change their jobs, or some people, depending on how close you're staying with them, or they stop the game of music and they moved on to something else. So staying on top of people is part of you expanding what you're offering. Whether it's like you've updated your website, you've updated your catalog, and you're re-stimulating them, you put out an album of your material, and you're sending that to them, and you're saying, hey, this is some new stuff I've done. You know, it doesn't really pay to keep bugging people if it's always the same stuff. So it's like you have to show your activity to them and kind of keep that movement happening, and that's how I'd say
which is where the portfolio is really helpful, and you can just
portfolio is helpful. Show the accounts you've been working on, and then, you know, just keep a real, and that's kind of the organization geeky stuff I was saying in the beginning. Is it's like there's sound organization, there's all that organization, but then there's contact organization, and there's keeping track of, like, I sent an email to this person on this day. I didn't just like bulk email this whole list of all these people, and then I'm like starting to irritate people that have some weight to it, you know, and like, oh no, I just really pissed off the guy at CBS or whatever, and he's not going to call me back now because he thinks I'm sneaky. Keep it friendly, but keep it organized. Yeah, keep it personal, and some, you know, if you know these people, and you know, if it gets to that level, keep it, you know, remember when you sent them an email. check your Google history and be like, oh yeah, I don't want to bug him again. That was 2 weeks ago or whatever, you know. So yeah, just that kind of stuff. It really.
So it's kind of like go with your wits, like what's the right time to contact this person.
A lot of intuition on that stuff for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of waiting, and there's a lot of not pestering that's involved with this whole thing for sure.
Do you get a lot of people that will call you just people you don't know from someone that referred?
That happens sometimes. If you get lucky enough for some supervisor or something to call you and be like, hey, we heard this, or they might have heard a song in a different sync or placement, and they'd be like, we really love to use that for this. That happened for me this year with Cop Out, and this rap track that they heard. It was actually in Love Guru, and they're like, yeah, we want to use it for Cop Out too. And I was like, wow, okay, that's one of the first time that's ever happened to me, where someone actually called me and was like, you know, yes, we've heard this, we want to use it. So sometimes there are referrals, and sometimes people do hear your stuff, but initially it's a lot of really, you know, just cold calling and trying to keep it moving with your portfolio and showing people that you're hungry and you'll work on stuff for spec and things like that. So, yeah.
You write, you say you write a song?
Yeah, songwriting too, sure.
Yeah, like, I don't know if this is the way to ask it, but like, how do you write a song? Like, just.
How do you go about writing it?
Yeah, how do you go about writing a song?
It's easy, man. You just go listen to stuff that sounds good, and then you just copy that, and then, you know.
Yeah,
No. Like one of those things you have to use your creativity.
Oh, yeah?
You guys, you songwriter? You write?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that.
I'm mostly engineer, but I've been writing songs since I was like 15 for like local artists. So
Great. Totally, man. Yeah.
like, I'm kind of like you. I'm like all over the place. I do I love jazz, hip hop,
Nice.
R&B. I wrote my songs for rock for bands and everything.
Chilling. Exactly. Yeah. It's a stream kind of thing. You know. Yeah. And it takes a certain freedom mentally to be able to get into that space. Because
You kind of, like he said, you kind of have to like listen to a lot of genres of music. Because if you only listen to hip hop, it's gonna be hard to write a rock song also. But if you listen to like kind of everything, you know, then you kind of get like more of a, you know.
you have to. I mean, you have to authentically like it too. That's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
For
I mean,
sure.
I listen to a lot of different types of music. You know, it's like my musical taste is huge.
Sure.
So it's like I want to write, but it's like I don't even know where to start. Just start dropping stuff down, and whatever I'm thinking, whatever.
Just go for it. Do you play?
No, well, I'm learning to play the piano.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll just start. You know, if playing's not there yet, and you get from a pro to start sequencing ideas, get some chords going, get some rhythms going. And, I mean, you can't go wrong with the lyrics, man. I mean, there's so many tunes that have done well that have the worst lyrics. It's like, you know what I'm saying? These days, especially, man, it's just like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Some of the tracks on the radio, it's like really
Everything's production driven instead of things.
production driven for sure. A lot of it's what it is. So
I mean, one of the greatest songs I've ever heard was by this group called King Missile. Classical Penis.
oh, beautiful. Wow.
That was it.
Oh man, just took it there. But
And they got so much radio play, it wasn't funny, but it's a good song.
there's an entertainment business side to the whole thing, right? You know. So yeah.
That was a really cliche question, but like, someone, if you wish someone told you like one thing, and you're just starting out, but you're saying like, well, I'm gonna pay your money, whatever, what would that?
I would say you kind of the similar comment that I mentioned earlier about having your, if you're trying to be, depends if you're trying to be a songwriter, you're trying to pitching tracks, you're trying to write music, write lyrics. Have your whole thing as organized and complete as possible as you can. I think for a long time I was making instrumentals, I was making tons of beats, and I had all these ideas, and I had like a huge library of tracks that I thought sounded great, but you don't quite get the attention as if you actually called in a vocalist and said, you know, hey, can I pay you $100 to sing a scratch vocal on this track? Go to the lyrics. If you make it, if you're into the production thing, I would say that. You know, for the engineering thing now, that's different. That's a whole different thing now. You know, it's like the studio. There's a lot of ways to go in the studio thing now. But for the production side, I would say that. I'd say really get your things as close to finished and polished before you try to start pitching it.
And it's funny that you said it because I try to tell like people all the time, like, you know, I engineer for some artists and like, I'm like, just give me some time, and they're like, you know, it's just a demo, you know, just do whatever on it and just give it to me. I'm like you need
good?
yeah, like you need it to be, you know,
Acceptable,
you need it to be like competing with everything else that's out there.
For sure.
And they think just because it's a demo, you can just, you know. Yeah, nobody's going to try to listen through the production, listen to the song. Like, it's, you're going to give it as a whole or not, you know?
It's true. No,
it's like not seasoning food. It's like kind of like, well, you know, I cooked it perfectly, but...
right. You had your own spices.
Yeah, you had your own spices.
Right, no, exactly. That's what it is.
Imagine the spices there. You can't.
No, exactly. It's got to be completed. It's got to sound as is. Yeah.
Yeah, let's say hypothetically, like not even like this on the songwriting aspect, let's just say you're trying to like become like a rock star for nice, and you're trying to shop your demo for EP.
Yeah.
How many songs would you recommend putting on the EP? Like, do you want to like give them like something general outline of the concept for an album, or do you want to give them something that's very varied and diverse? So if they like this one kind of thing that you did specifically well and want more of it.
I mean, today people are listening to hits, you know, it's definitely the era of the single now. It's back to that, because of the download thing. You know, people aren't even checking out albums anymore. It's like, I think it's definitely, you know, if you have like 3 strong tracks, hit them with that, having the strongest, because it's sad to say, you know, it's like I look at vinyl now and stuff, and it's like, it looks beautiful, you know, I'm like, this is amazing, man. You got artwork on the front, and then holding this thing. The digital thing's kind of sad, you know, but it's convenient, it's what it is, it's incredible on some level, but it's totally a single, no one even notices. You don't listen to an album like with concepts of transitions happening between tracks and stuff like that. It's not happening right now. I mean, people are doing that, but it's not on the level that's...
Those guys are mean.
You can do it when you get to that point, right? You are some heavy concept rock group. You got you can actually press the vinyl and do artistic things like that for your Radiohead or whatever. So yeah, that's amazing when that can be pulled up. I think today the way people are listening to stuff, MP3s,
They just want like
Singles.
elevator music, just easy listening.
I know it's turning into some of that. I would agree.
Even with your some of your mixes, everything's gonna get thrown on an iPod or MP3 player. Some the mixes are
Right, all this like 192.
Yeah.
Why are we obsessing about that? It's going down.
yeah,
to-
like why record on Pro Tools HD if you're gonna put it
Right.
on your I could record on the inbox.
Right. That's the thing. I feel like that might change with the way technology goes. 'Cause I know that like if you load stuff on the MySpace music, it sounds terrible because like they're encoding, all the high end goes away, cymbals sound just awful on MySpace music. But there's things now like SoundCloud services. You load your tracks to that, it'll stream them at the quality that you uploaded down.
SoundClick too.
SoundClick, okay, nice. So I think that trend might start to move back in because people get all tired of like, okay, that sounds garbage,
When you put your songs on an iPod, it raise it.
MP3.
It's the compression
Oh,
or
yeah.
something.
It raise the sound of it.
Oh yeah, definitely. It definitely knows the quality of it.
Well, you can load it up as a big file, but most people are converting them to MP3s, and that's what you can keep it at the normal high res, but that takes a lot more space. That's why people do it. Yeah.
I just wanted to go back to what Sister was going to talk about, the things to remember to put on MP, but is it just a strong 3-track list if you're going to give it to someone, like a demo, or is someone just doesn't need any artwork? Just
YouTube. You
Put
come
it
up
on
with
YouTube.
a catchy dance.
It's a production thing over
the
here.
presentation of your demo is the artwork. So much
Depends on the-
depends when you're giving them the actual.
I think the artwork, the visual side is important on some level. If you can organize that and have that look good too, that definitely helps. Yeah, I think so. But it's depends what genre you're working in, like what you're going for. If you're trying to be like Arcade Fire, super indie rock band, and then maybe it does help to have some of the concept things together and because you're really like, this is what we are, this is what we do. If you're doing some radio singles and stuff that are like, hits, then that's like that vibe
It's more of the quality.
is the quality of the track, feel, and then you can have it look good on some level. That definitely helps. The visual thing and subconsciously, I think it affects a lot of things for sure.
Do you think that like record labels, when they listen to these tracks, they listen to one that sounds like really raw and something not really mixed, but it's got like some really good concept that can be really, that could be big, or compared to someone that's really nicely mixed, but it's kind of like the idea is like whatever compared to the one
That's good. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think that happens. That definitely happens a lot. I mean, I've definitely worked with cats and it's been like, they gave me their rough necks and didn't know how to master the stuff and stuff just blowing the speakers out. And they're like, all right, dude, you really want to pitch that?
Yeah.
The kick is completely whooping. I mean, the track's it's a very great track, but it happens for sure. People will.
Do you think they would just be like, okay, we'll just take it to the next step?
Depends on it's a real relative thing, I think. But I think if they can hear it hitting it, and it's just like, yeah, the mix is terrible. They might make the move, But it's a very relative thing, I think.
But it shouldn't have to be.
It shouldn't be that. It should be as polished as it can be, And that's what I'm saying about if you're producing, have your mixing, have some basic mastering knowledge, know some mastering tools, and then what sounds good and what. A lot of the thing now is to get it, as hitting as it can be, but still have that clarity and that detail. Know some of the steps to get to that place, like know how to use multi-band compression, have some tools that you've mastered. You know how to tweak the things you need to tweak. But if the kick comes out of control, some more pops from the snare, vocally some shimmer, that kind of stuff. It just takes a lot of experimentation, But I think getting closer to that, being able to do that, definitely for sure.
It just increases it that much.
Oh yeah, I mean the mix. Yeah, the track is great, and then you have a really good mix on it. That's everything for sure.
Do they have like some sort of like A&R, I guess for lack of a better term, like an A&R database? Like, because you can't just like mail it to like Def Jam or Island Def Jam or something. Just here's my CD.
Right.
Is there like a database, like an online database of like A&Rs for every individual record label, indie and major, that you can just like, so there's a place you can send the music to where it's gonna get heard.
Well,
Not just the track.
Right. Well, you don't know it's going to get heard until you break through to that A&R secretary, and if you get them on the phone, I would argue that. But you can find out their number, and like the Music Atlas was saying, go check that out.
Music what?
Music Atlas.
Music Atlas.
That's what I'm saying. That's the starting database, to get going. And like, okay, here's this label, here's these A&Rs, here's the number to call you at the front desk. There's these law firms that represent so and so. Then that information's out there for sure. You can go to Google right now and type in like A&R list. You'll find a bunch of sites. Some sites you pay $15 a month, and they'll give you access and stuff like that. But I would just start with the Atlas and look through that and things like this big, and it's a lot of things to start with there.
Can I give a suggestion?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Basically, like now it's like since it's like 2010, everybody's going digital, like you said, everything's computer, everybody's on YouTube. Build a fan base first, I would say, because if you try to go straight to the music, the record labels, they might not like.
Oh, I know. Like you gotta come in with something because they're not gonna win.
No, but I'm saying if you already have a fan base, because everybody's getting famous on YouTube, right now. It's like ridiculous.
True.
You put a baby crying and the baby gets famous. It is. It's true. So
that dude 50 Tyson makes terrible music, but he's famous and he actually got a record label like a few months back because his name is 50 Tyson and he looks literally like a cross between 50 Cent and Mike Tyson. He's from the South. He has this song like, my name is 50 Tyson. My name is 50 Tyson. But he made money off a terrible song.
Oh man.
It's all about it.
The money's not related to the quality or anything like that. The entertainment business.
Yeah, but if you build a fan base and if you're already making money before you get a record deal, they're gonna want some of that money.
Right. What do they have to offer at that point?
Yeah. So it's kind of like I would say go on the internet and distribute because the internet's doing what the record label would do for you.
That's what's happening.
That's what's happening. That's why a lot of record labels are dying out.
True words. That's it. Yeah.
I'm not an artist, so I don't have to worry about that. But
right. No, but what the record label offers is just the network and the marketing that they can do certain things that maybe some of those things can't, but you can. You can from the ground up off of the social networks do a lot. Like you said, Tyson there or whatever, and it's crazy. So the record label's just gonna have some extra special networking things.
You'd be surprised how far the music will go.
I was thinking I consider myself a good musician, but I was thinking if I just came up with like just one silly song and they came up with a dance, even though it's not an East Coast thing, but if I could just do it like a mockumentary and just put in some other stuff, I could do a way to like build up.
Right. Yes. You can do it, man. It just takes the will and that little iTunes video camera,
Just swallow a lot of pride.
Oh man.
Yeah, but you gotta also know how you want to be viewed by the public. Is that the way you want to be viewed?
Well, I'm not a gangster rapper. I really don't care. I don't mind dancing. All these gangster dudes they played in the club anyway. You might as well come on something. I just mock the South about it.
Do that. Or you can take a video of your cat jumping out of a box. So my wife's Japanese, and there's this huge video that got big in Japan of a cat like jumping out of a box. Millions of views, and now she's got this whole monetization thing going on off her cat.
Yeah, that's a great example of what was true. With baby crying, I think there's like a video on YouTube. It's like a baby crying got 130 million views.
Right.
It's like that's famous. Like 130 million.
It's a viral effect.
You see that Karate Kid baby?
Oh God, now we're taking it there. That's a whole other realm right there. I don't know if we'll get to that. That's Pandora's box that we already opened. But that's true. The viral marketing thing. It's free reign. It's up to your own ingenuity. Yeah, you get a chicken suit on and you run around campus and do some dances and put it up in a but it's to work.
Actually, I had a question also. Who do you work with now?
As far as
in what you do in production?
There's a couple film supervisors. I know a couple guys that used to work for library houses. They're now consultants, different like advertising firms and things like that. So I have some connections personally, and I know some guys who get things that come in and they send me emails like this is in, you want to try to do it, due by Friday 8 a.m.
Okay. What do you generally do, commercials or you do television or just film?
Lately it's been more TV, film, kind of thing like that, and a couple artist development things, but yeah, the jingle things I'll do occasionally, but it's not really my hustle. I know a lot of guys who do it full time.
What do you like to do best in what you do?
What I like to do best is I think doing the film
Inside.
TV thing, yeah, doing the more score
Video
textural
game kind of stuff.
video games, yeah, more action oriented. You know, I love more like drum and bass stuff. I also love jazz stuff. I like stuff that has dark textures a lot, you know, so I tend to kind of go in that direction. Like, you know, I used to love like DJ Premier and K-Rock, and I also love DJ Shadow, and you know, guys who make big sample collage, Lamont Tobin. Kind of probably fall in that category. Most of the production stuff I love to do, but I mean, it's gotta break it up too. I like doing rock, funk things. And
You like the Far Side?
Far Side? Oh yeah, killing. For sure. Too much good stuff, but I'm good on time here. What's that?
We're good.
We're good? Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Thanks a lot for having me, guys. It's good to come out and meet you.